you see these fans, you know you've got the best in the damn world.
This is the Wrestling Matters podcast where we stand up for professional wrestling.
Here we fucking go!
Welcome one, welcome all to a brand new episode of the Wrestling Matters podcast, guys. Episode 155. Hope you guys are well and whatever it is you are doing. Yeah, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the new intro as well. I thought the intro needed a bit of a revamp as well. But this, guys, episode 155 is a new format. It really is. It's a new format today, guys. I've been working on a few things, had a few reality checks, and yeah, it's going to be epic. Oh, it's going to be great for you guys, and hopefully you guys will enjoy. Today's show, we're going to talk about the Paige Saga. More on that in a sec. Highs and lows of Raw and Smackdown. Top 10 WrestleMania 1 facts. Fascinating facts about WrestleMania 1 that even you didn't know about. Hardys versus Impact and the highs and lows of TNA. Highs and lows of Ring of Honor. Highs and lows of ICW Fight Club as well. ICW. Only on this podcast. Top 10 moments when WCW went too far, and an outro and a reminder of Ryan Howe coming to Wrestle Island. All of that still to come. Speaking of promotions, Sunday Segway is also on the Swerve Talk Network as well. Swerve Talk Network with Sunday Segway, Max Wrestling, Ruthless Aggression Era, Worst of Wrestling's Worst. I never get that right. I always say Worst of Wrestling before Wrestling's Worst. Why do I say that? I don't know. But check them out anyway, guys. And also check out the new Max Wrestling stuff. Also check out S&M Show Podcast as well. Wrestling Unleashed and the other good stuff as well. And a few things here and there that are not wrestling related as well. But hopefully you guys will enjoy. Each and every week, I spread it on this podcast. You will not be disappointed. Also, besides the Swerve Talk Network, you can also listen to this podcast on the SoundCloud, Wrestling Matters channel on YouTube, and Radio Big World. Just look them up on SoundCloud. Also, download this episode and as well as the other episodes for free on SoundCloud too. Now, we have got all that promotions out the way. More on Wrestle Island later on, as well as Mystery Island. I'll leave that for later, but I want to talk about the Paige Saga. Because according, I will read a tweet that she sent out today. Personal and private photos of mine were stolen and unfortunately were shared publicly without my consent. Maybe someone's hacked into it, I don't know. Apparently this was because of her photos that featured her, Xavier Woods, Austin Creed, whatever you want to call him, Mr. Up, Down, Down, and Brad Maddox. Because apparently I found out that Brad Maddox and Paige at one time were dating, which was news to me. I didn't even know that, but apparently they were. Now, the photos, I haven't seen them. They feature Paige, Brad Maddox, and Xavier Woods. I would probably have seen him myself, but then again, you guys don't want me to talk about something like that because at the end of the day, this is a wrestling podcast, not a fucking porn channel. And I promote and talk about the best in professional wrestling as only as I can on this podcast. This whole Paige saga is really getting on my nerves. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. This whole downfall for Paige has been since she started dating Mr. El Patron, Alberto Del Rio, to you and I. Ever since then, her career seemed to hit like a road bump full of controversy. You know, you've got this, people just won't leave her alone about, you know, the Del Rio saga and everything. You know, who gives a flying fuck, man? I'm sick of talking, I'm sick of hearing about the bad stuff of Paige, man. It really gets on my nerves. I want the old Paige back, the wrestler Paige, the woman that set the bar for the NXT women's division. You know, I want that Paige back. And according to her Twitter here, that she's a 2-time Divas champion. That's an example right there. I mean, she won the Divas title the first night on Raw after WrestleMania when she made her debut, for crying out loud. I mean, at the end of the day, nobody cares. No wrestling fan cares. Nobody in their right mind cares who she's dating. As long as she's not breaking the law, nobody gives a fuck who she's dating. Nobody cares. Big whoop, she's dating Alberto El Patron. Whoop-de-doo. She's falling in love with a guy. You can't help who you fall in love with. But then again, saga after saga after saga after saga still seems to continue, and controversy still surrounds Paige, man. And I'm done with it. Like I say, I want the old Paige back, the wrestler Paige. If you have to, go to TNA. Hell, your boyfriend's in TNA. Impact Wrestling, sorry. I keep calling it TNA. I don't know why. It is what it is. You know, he's competing for the World Championship at this point in time at least. More on TNA later. Impact Wrestling, whatever you want to call it. I still call it TNA. It's going to take a while for me to get rid of that name, but anyway. So go and join him. Go be in the Knockouts division, for crying out loud. There's a spot there for you. You'd probably be the Knockouts champion at some point. Go and join him. Go and join him in TNA. Break away from the WWE. Or, better yet, sort something out with the WWE ASAP and get this thing sorted out. Because it's getting to a point where it was okay at first, but now it's really getting out of control. And like I say, I'm not going to talk about the pictures or anything like that, because like I say, this is a wrestling podcast. This is a podcast about professional wrestling, not a podcast about porn, okay? If I wanted to listen to porn, or porn website, or porn podcast even, porn website, I'd probably listen to a podcast about porn, but this is a podcast. I want to bring you the best in professional wrestling. And this saga is doing my head in, so the sooner, at the end of the day, guys, the sooner Paige gets her shit together and sorts her stuff out, the better. For all concerned, and the better she can get back in. I hope she can get back up to her career and get back to where she was and be the wrestler, Paige. Because she's good. Like I say, she set the bar for the NXT women's division and did a very good job at that too. But it's since the day she started dating El Patron and got into this conflict with WWE about her dating him and this, and this. I mean, who the fuck are we to tell? Who's dating who? Who cares? As long as at the end of the day, she's not breaking the law. She loves the guy. Let her be WWE. But, it's just the controversy surrounding Paige is really annoying. And I want this to be done. But anyway, guys, I'm not going to dwell on about that. I'm going to wrap this part up here. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll be back in part 2 of this new formatted edition of the Wrestling Matters podcast with the highs and lows of Raw and Smackdown. So stay tuned. If you enjoy the Wrestling Matters podcast, why not check out the Wrestling Matters podcast right now on YouTube at AJW Wrestling Matters. You can also check it out on SoundCloud at Wrestling_Matters_podcast. That's /Wrestling_Matters_podcast. Also, check it out on Radio Big World as well. For more information on them, you can check them out on SoundCloud and the Swerve Talk Network as well. For more each and every week of the Wrestling Matters podcast, weekly podcast that talk about the best in professional wrestling today, whether it's WWE, Ring of Honor, TNA, ICW, Progress Wrestling, and the list goes on and on. Only the best in professional wrestling. Why? Because wrestling matters, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to part 2 of the Wrestling Matters podcast, guys, and let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. The highs and lows of Raw and Smackdown this past week. Let's start with Raw. The lows for Raw this past week, at least in my opinion, were Enzo Amore, Big Cass, and Cesaro and Sheamus going to a no contest. It was all build up for WrestleMania, the triple threat match, the tag team titles, them against Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. It's all about that and everything. We all knew it was going to happen. At the end of the day, it was just a low point. It was just like, oh God, who cares kind of thing. Big Show, Titus O'Neil. Big Show is going to be in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and from what I've been told, it's going to be his last WrestleMania as well, because apparently he's going to be an ambassador for the company when WrestleMania is over, so that could be the end of him. The high points, in my opinion, were Austin Aries beats Daivari on Raw and then becomes the number 1 contender to face Neville at WrestleMania, which I'm very much looking forward to. Undertaker playing mind games with Roman Reigns as well during his Jinder Mahal match as well. I like this match. I've never liked this match with Roman Reigns versus Undertaker. I've never liked this match. I've never not liked this match at all. It is a good match. It's interesting to see, no doubt. I just have my doubts about it, which I'm not going to say, but the mind games have definitely begun. I just hope Roman Reigns can last long with the mind games of the master, ladies and gentlemen, because the dead man is the master of mind games, believe you me. I've been watching him for so long, but like I said, I'm definitely looking forward to WrestleMania. There's no question about that. US Champion Chris Jericho, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, and Samoa Joe as well. That was okay, except for the disqualification match as well. Cruiserweight tag team match, yeah. Probably my favorite high point of the night was when Sasha Banks and Dana Brooke had their match, and Dana Brooke turned on Charlotte at the end of the match by punching her right in the mouth and literally got it good, which was great, and then started beating the living dog out of her and everything, which was just great to see. And apparently, from what I've been told, it's talking about Nia Jax and Dana Brooke being possibly added to this triple threat match at WrestleMania for the women's title. That'll be interesting to find out. The other points were Brock Lesnar makes a statement, sends a message to Bill Goldberg about his match, all the hype for their match at WrestleMania. Nothing big there. And Bayley defeats Nia Jax by disqualification. So nothing really big on that point, apart from the other points that I mentioned as well. Also, guys, Smackdown. The high point of Smackdown this past week, bar none, was the whole AJ Styles Shane McMahon saga. AJ Styles attacking Shane McMahon backstage, literally beating the dog out of him backstage and throwing him through a car window. I liked it, to be honest. I didn't think they'd do something like that with it being PG and that, but I'm glad they've gone down that route and tried to build the hype up for WrestleMania and try to get that hype going for WrestleMania in what it looks like to be their match. I've got no problem with this at all. I just hope this doesn't backfire on AJ Styles because, let's face it, Daniel Bryan said it best on Talking Smack. AJ Styles is the best wrestler in the company. Bar none. End of. He is the best wrestler in the company. There is a reason they call him phenomenal. I just hope this doesn't backfire on him in terms of the match wise, or brings his credibility down a level. I like Shane McMahon. I have no problems with Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon is not a wrestler, we know that, but he can fight. He doesn't have the best matches in the world. He brings out some of the good stuff and bring out some quality moments. Like go back to last year when he jumped off that cell against The Undertaker. I'm looking forward to seeing this match, but I'll say this right now, Styles has to win. Styles has to win. But I enjoyed the high point. The high point at the end of all this, bottom line the whole AJ Styles, Shane McMahon thing was great. It really was. It was absolutely phenomenal, pun intended. I didn't think they'd go down that route with it being PG and that, but, credit to them for doing it as well. And probably another slice in the pie of why SmackDown is the best product in the company at the moment as well. Despite the fact that Raw seems to be winning the ratings, from what I've been told, you can't deny that SmackDown has the best brand. Low points of SmackDown, though. They did have some low points this week. The Usos, American Alpha. Usos defeating American Alpha. Shame they can't do it for the titles. No doubt it would be them two for the tag team titles at WrestleMania, probably. Unless the rumours are true from what I've been hearing. There may be Raw tag team champions versus SmackDown tag team champions. It doesn't seem to go that way, though, but it seems that since the tag team champions of Raw are in this triple threat match, it's going to be the Usos and American Alpha, it seems. And if it's on the pre-show, rather, I almost said if it's on the big show there, but if it's on the pre-show, it is what it is. Bray Wyatt informed Randy Orton that he possesses the power of Sister Abigail. Great promo, great hype built to their match. That is a high point of SmackDown as well. The not so much point, in my opinion, was Mickie James and Alexa Bliss. Didn't really mean much. The very low point of SmackDown was Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler turns heel, and basically he's been dropped back down to the bottom of the barrel. You know something's wrong when you're having a match with Mojo Rawley. All hype for the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, which Dolph seems to be in. Oh boy. It just never ends with Dolph, does it? It's just a never-ending saga with Dolph in terms of how to book him and how to use him. I don't like it, man. I really don't. I mean, seriously, WWE? Seriously? And the other low point, Becky Lynch defeated Natalya, which was nothing new to me. I didn't care about that match particularly. The low point was seeing Nikki Bella kiss John Cena because they got their match against Miz and Maurice at WrestleMania in a mixed tag match. All I gotta say is on that one, get a room. But all in all, that is the highs and lows of SmackDown and Raw. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed SmackDown. I enjoyed, in a way, Raw, despite its 3 hours. But there was the highs and lows of SmackDown versus Raw. Hope you guys enjoyed that. And I'll be back right after this with part 3, and I'll be talking about WrestleMania. WrestleMania 1, fascinating facts that you didn't even know about. And hell, come to think of it, neither did I until I seen it. You want to know? Stay tuned. I'll go through them right after this.
Wrestling fans, look no further for the most unpredictable wrestling podcast you've ever heard on the Max Wrestling Podcast, hosted by me, Dazzy Dangerously, with everybody's favourite captains, The Phoenix, The Butcher, and Mike Larkin, plus special guests, promos, and trivia.
Find out what's been going on in wrestling history as I take you down memory lane every week.
And The Butcher's Stupid Idiot of the Week gets it!
And see if you agree with me as I choose every week's segment of the week in the world of wrestling.
The Max Wrestling Podcast is available on
YouTube, Podomatic,
Mixcloud, and Soundcloud.
And the Swerve Talk Network with other great shows.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Max Wrestling UK, or go to our website, maxwrestling.wix.com/maxwrestling.
And that's the bottom line.
because we're out of time.
Yalakalikimaka.
Listen in, man.
Be sure to listen to the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast.
What?
Every Sunday with Kinny Killer and the Galdem Sugar Shugs.
Yes! Yes!
With all the news, views, and laughter that you want.
They like jet airplanes. Woo! They like long limousines.
Every Sunday, the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast on Podomatic, iTunes, and YouTube.
So why don't you choke on that, slap nut?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Wrestling Matters podcast. Now it's time for the WrestleMania Fascinating Facts. This is part 3. Hope you guys enjoy this. Some fascinating facts about WrestleMania that you probably didn't even know. I probably didn't even know until, well, I didn't know until I saw it. Yeah, I'm going to share these with you and give you my opinion on it. Number 10, WrestleMania was once considered as the colossal tussle. Back in the day, there was names thrown around, and there was a few MTV shows, War to Settle the Score, and so on. The other kind of days, all build to what Piper and Hogan had, leading into this WrestleMania. Somebody came up with an idea. Let's call it the colossal tussle. Thankfully, Vince McMahon came up with an idea. Let's call it WrestleMania, and you know where we are today with that. Hell, you're gonna love this one. Even at one point, it was meant to be, and it was suggested to be called Hulkamania. Yeah. You go figure that one out. Number 9, there was a house show right before the actual day. Now, the reason why I say this in this way is because usually before WrestleMania now, they usually have like a week off to recuperate and get themselves prepared for the big show. Now, back in the day, because a majority of them, well, a portion of the roster back in the day, leading into this WrestleMania one, worked TV tapings in Atlanta for TBS. I'll give you the list. Ricky Steamboat, Beefcake, Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov, King Kong Bundy, Greg Valentine, and David Sammartino all worked the TBS tapings. Basically, Vince had them working weekends. Good one, Vince. Number 8, Hogan and Mr. T hosted Saturday Night Live the day before the actual show. And the reason why this is brought up, because apparently WrestleMania 1 was aired or was starting at 1 o'clock New York time. And they were hosting Saturday Night Live the previous day. So they had to do the show, go home, go straight to bed. I think they were running about 4 hours sleep at the most. They didn't get that long of sleep. And then they got up, went to the show, worked the show, and probably were knackered right after it. But they still made the show. More on Mr. T later on. Next one was Jesse Ventura, good old body. This was his debut pay-per-view. He was a nervous wreck, and it took Gorilla Monsoon to grab hold of him, and keep him intact. Who would have thought it, the good old mouthpiece of the 80s, in terms of commentary, that is. Jesse Ventura was nervous before an actual show. You never would have thought that, but he was. Thankfully, he got over them nerves, and went on to be part of the top 3 best announcers in the history of WWE. The other 2 being Jim Ross, Jerry Lawler, and Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan as well. So, kudos to him. Tito Santana's only TV win was the next one. Apparently, they're comparing Tito Santana to the Sami Zayn of that year, which would be true. He beat the Executioner at WrestleMania 1, and then after that, from number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to 8, he never won a WrestleMania match. He basically lost 7 straight. Yeah, you probably won't count Dark match he had with Papa Shango at WrestleMania 9. The next one is Special Delivery Jones missed his cue. Apparently this guy was supposed to lose in 90 seconds. It didn't look out that way, even though WWE at the time tried to make it look as though it did. All in all, King Kong Bundy ended up with the fastest win in WrestleMania history at that time, just squashing ST Jones and beating him in record time, which would last very long into the future, I believe. Steamboat debuted a month before, is the next one. A month before, he was in NWA. And then, obviously, the McMahon lure and everything, he decided to come up here, and he got on the pay-per-view, or the closed circuit TV show, which was his match against Matt Bourne as well. When I eventually do the WrestleMania number 2, and by the way, Matt Bourne, the original Doink the Clown, I will talk more about Mr. Steamboat in the next one, which is WrestleMania 2, and that'll air next week, because very interesting thing about Steamboat for WrestleMania 2 as well, but more on that next week. The next one is Don Morocco was kept off the show. Now, back then, I think they kept him off the show because there were plans at the time to have him as a heel, big villain, and be the guy going after Hogan and his WWE Championship. But I don't think that panned out for him that well. Yes, they had Bundy as well, and yes, he was part of the Bundy feud, apparently, from what I remember. Other than that, it was great, but it's a shame that they didn't have him on the actual show, the very first one. Next one is Mr. T nearly walks out. Now, I know a lot about this one. There's quite a few people, Piper included. These two couldn't get along. If you paid them to get along, they still couldn't do it. And apparently, Mr. T wanted to leave, and it took Hulk Hogan to nearly babysit him just to keep him there so they could actually do the actual show. Because if Mr. T had walked out, it would probably be no WrestleMania. WrestleMania 1 would have probably been fucked, basically. Credit to Hogan, credit to Vince as well for keep him there to do the show, and yeah, it got off like a house on fire. rather. And number one, straight and simple, guys, it was make or break for Vince McMahon. This was Vince McMahon's Super Bowl, his mecca, if you will, at the time. Closed circuit TV and everything. If this hadn't have worked, Vince McMahon and the WWE would have been good night. Good night, Vienna. They wouldn't have been around here. We wouldn't be talking about them to this day. I probably wouldn't be talking about them on this podcast. But yeah, they're done. But thankfully, it didn't come to that. And number one was a success. And it drew very good numbers, despite the fact it was on closed circuit TV. And it wasn't a pay-per-view. It was closed circuit TV at the time. I think number two was a pay-per-view. I might be wrong. But this was definitely closed circuit and everything. They used to have these on in like cinemas just so people could buy tickets. Like if you're going to watch a movie, but instead you go to watch WrestleMania, which would have been cool. I wish they'd do that right now. I wish they'd do that in our towns and everything where we do, They put on WrestleMania, I'd definitely go down. All in all, guys, that is the fascinating facts about WrestleMania 1. I'll be back next week with that for WrestleMania 2, so, stay tuned with that one as well. And then hopefully, I don't know, I might fit WrestleMania 3 in. I might do it week by week, but I might put WrestleMania 3 in as well. Because we're really fast approaching WrestleMania 33 anyway, so yeah, I'll see what happens. WrestleMania 2 will be next week. The fascinating facts of WrestleMania 2 will be next week, guaranteed. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll be back in the next part with the highs and lows of TNA, Impact Wrestling, plus my thoughts on the whole saga that is the Hardys versus Impact. So, stay tuned. Are you sick of professional wrestling? Do you want to speak your mind about professional wrestling? Well, if you like a wrestling podcast, why not tune in to the wrestling podcast where wrestling matters, the Wrestling Matters Podcast. Each and every week, I talk about the best in professional wrestling from WWE, TNA, ICW, Progress Wrestling, Ring of Honor, and the list goes on and on. Also, on the other occasions, I bring guests in as well to shoot the breeze about the one thing that I love, that we all love, professional wrestling. So join me each and every week for the Wrestling Matters Podcast on YouTube, AJW Wrestling Matters, the Wrestling Matters YouTube channel, SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/wrestling_matters_podcast, and any other podcasts that matters. Wrestling Matters, wrestling fans. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to part 4 of the Wrestling Matters Podcast. Hope you guys are well. Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast so far. Now we get on to TNA, Impact Wrestling, whatever you want to call it now. First, I'm going to talk about Hardys versus Impact Wrestling, as it says here. It says here, Impact versus Hardys update. So, I'm going to read some tweets. This whole situation involving the Hardy Boys and Broken Hardy Universe and Anthem, I'm guessing, Impact Wrestling, I'm guessing it's Anthem who have something to do with it, whatever. Rebby Sky's been very vocal about this. I will read some of the tweets that I've got. Update. TNA sent an absolutely laughable legal proposal, re-trademark usage and ownership sigh. We tried to play nice, truly, oh well. Fun facts, Senora Benjamin never signed one piece of paper stating TNA could ever use, broadcast or profit from his image likeness. Fun facts, Maxwell was never legally cleared to appear on camera. Want to check them TV child labor laws and get back to me, TNA? Fun facts, nearly every notable attribute that makes Broken Matt Hardy, hashtag Broken Matt Hardy, was developed by me in the Waffle House. Yummy. Oh, in a Waffle House, sorry, very hard to read. I'm just giving you an example. These are examples, these. Fun facts. Trying to prevent someone from illegally making money is torturous interference of business and a huge offense. How about that, C and D? Fun facts. I filed for the broken trademark when all the shady business from JJ and Anthem got back to me weeks before his contract was up. If owning my husband was that important, why not apply, I don't know, before his contract was up, before you found out I did? It seems that Impact Wrestling versus Hardy Boys or Hardys versus Impact, it's gone to the point where the Hardys have this broken package. Broken Hardy, Broken Matt Hardy, Brother Nero, and all that stuff that they've done. It seems that obviously TNA want a slice of the pie. To be honest, in my opinion, I think TNA needs to be kissing up Impact Wrestling or Anthem or whoever's responsible for this. Mind you, they're saying that it's mainly Impact Wrestling. Anthem had nothing to do with this. They came in after all of this. But if it wasn't for Broken Hardys doing what they were doing at Christmas, with all the Hardy stuff from the Hardy household, the final deletion and all that stuff, if it wasn't for them, nobody would be still watching TNA despite the financial position they were in. Nobody would have cared. If you ask me, and this is just my opinion, the Hardy Boys kept TNA Impact Wrestling in business through that difficult time. Because people were pretty much done with Impact Wrestling at that point, but they were still tuning in to see what the fuck this lot were up to at the end of the day. So I don't know why this is taking place. Obviously, it's a business. Anthem's a business. Impact Wrestling's a business. It's a company. They want to be a part of it because the Hardys were on their promotion, their network, if you will. Obviously, they want a part of that. And they're probably scared shitless that they're going to end up in WWE doing this. So they weren't trying to get something in before WWE can get it out of it. Should WWE get that hands on it? Hopefully not, if there's a God in this world. Because I believe if WWE get out of this Broken Hardy stuff, plain and simple, to be honestly, they'll fuck it up. I say they being Vince McMahon. If you ask me, Impact Wrestling is wasting, or Anthem is wasting their time with this. If Impact Wrestling or Anthem win this legal battle, they must have some fucking good lawyers. Seriously. Because at the end of the day, from what I've seen, the Hardy's gimmick, the Broken Hardy package, as you may call it, as you probably would call it, was created by Matt Hardy and Rebby Sky, from what she's put here, Rebby Hardy as she's called. Obviously, she's married to Matt. So, yeah, it is what it is at the end of the day, guys. But, like I say, my opinion, they're wasting their time. To earlier Hardy Impact story, it would appear the Hardy family has hired legal representations in regard to the Impact Wrestling situation as Rebecca Hardy, Rebby Hardy, noted on Twitter, which I've just read out basically. So, like I said, at the end of the day, bottom line I think Impact are wasting their time. Because the Broken Hardy stuff is Matt rather, maybe Jeff as well. I would imagine Jeff came up with some of the creations as well. I don't know. Hopefully it gets resolved, and hopefully everybody can go their separate ways. But we'll see. It's interesting, though, that really is, from where I'm standing. Right. Highs and lows of TNA Impact Wrestling. The high was the opening segment, which led to their awesome match, which saw Alberto El Patron and EC3 go at it one-on-one, back and forth stuff, bantering here and there. Basically, EC3 trying to pull his punk card, Alberto El Patron's punk card, that is, and it worked. It really did. It absolutely worked. It worked to a T. And they ended up having a match later on in the evening, which was phenomenal. Great match, back and forth wrestling by two great wrestlers. Look, no doubt about it, two great wrestlers, and surprisingly, even though it wasn't that surprising to me, but it was surprising to me because I never thought EC3 would tap out, but EC3 tapped out to Alberto El Patron, and there was respect shown at the end of the match. A sour note of another highlight or high point, I forgot to mention before I mentioned them, was LAX returning, dominating Decay as well. Very much dominating Decay. The Back, Conan, Homicide, and three new people as well. Three new young talent, if you will. You could probably call them a young talent. The Woman and two guys as well. A woman to counteract the Knockouts division. So yeah, it should be interesting, man. I mean, I'm loving the fact that they're back, and hopefully they will raise hell in TNA. Low point blended with a high point as well was Cody Rhodes. This was a low point. Cody Rhodes coming out to stop his wife from competing in a match, saying that she's not going to be wrestling tonight, which was ridiculous. And she even paid the opponent $45 to walk away. Yeah, good one, Cody. But Cody, all of that aside, went back to his best and basically called out Moose on a promo, which was great, and challenged him for the Grand Championship. Two good tag team match was good as well, and yeah, just the main event and that, and also, like I said, the tag team title position as well. That was the good points and the high points of TNA. Hope you guys have enjoyed that as well. It was good to see TNA again. And the ultimate low point of TNA, ladies and gentlemen, Impact Wrestling, whatever you want to call them now. Like I say, I'm still calling them TNA. I will get used to it, and I will blend away from all of that very, very soon, guys, so bear with me. It is very hard because so many years they've been called TNA. It's very hard to switch and say now TNA is dead and go straight into Impact Wrestling, even though it's the only company that I know that did have two names. But anyway, at least Impact Wrestling have their titles back, the tag team titles, it seems, as well. The very low point of the whole thing, besides Josh Matthews running his mouth off, being a complete douchebag on the announce team, please fire him, was the X Division match, which saw the fallout from the wedding. Braxton Sutter trying to win the X Division championship, and the woman he was supposed to marry was in the crowd wearing the wedding dress with makeup down her face and everything like that. Looks like she's been crying for weeks, and it was shambolic. It really was. Just very, very, very poor, and that cost Braxton the X Division championship. But above all else, guys, Impact seems to be improving, and hopefully it'll go on. They're bringing all, like I said, they're bringing all the people back, bringing all the old names, the old well, I would say the old conjures, but they're bringing all the names back, you know, the LAXs, people like that. Yes, Suicide was back as well, guys. How many times has that guy been used? But above all else, guys, you know, it was good to see Impact again. A credible episode of Impact. And I'm very happy to say that because it just hasn't been credible, basically. And a little spoiler for next week, they said she was coming back. Apparently that she is Karen Angle, which would make sense since her husband's running the company. But that's next week, so I'll probably watch that next week and see how that pans out. But with that being said, guys, that is the end of the highs and lows of TNA and the Hardy versus Impact feud or legal dispute and my thoughts on that. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. I'll be back after this with Ring of Honor, so stay tuned.
Be sure to listen to the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast.
What?
Every Sunday with Kinny Killer and the Galdem Sugar Shugs.
Yes! Yes!
With all the news, views, and laughter that you want.
They like jet airplanes. Woo! They like long limousines.
Every Sunday, the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast on Podomatic, iTunes, and YouTube.
So why don't you choke on that, slap nut?
Welcome back to the Wrestling Matters Podcast, guys. Now it's time for Ring of Honor. Let's go the highs and lows of Ring of Honor. Let's get to the bits that, in my opinion, didn't really matter. And like I said, I'm going for the high point. There was one low point, but the high point, I've got the high points as well. Let me go through what was the other points as well. Kenny King challenges Lio Rush to a one-on-one match, which will take place next week. Kurt Stallion gets a big win in the Prospect Tournament in what was a great match. Didn't really do now for me. It was okay. There was no big deal. I liked it. You know, there was nothing that caught my eye in the match, but hey, Kurt Stallion got a victory and he's moved on. Dalton Castle proves that he is still the number one contender. He beat Jonathan Gresham in a great match. Strength proceeded, guys, because Gresham took it to him. He took it to him, tried to outthink the number one contender, and did very well in doing so, but Dalton proves he's the number one contender for the Ring of Honor World Championship, at least from what I've got anyway, and he was just too strong for Jonathan Gresham at the end of the day, even though Jonathan Gresham put up a hell of a fight. Now for the high points. The Young Bucks kicked off stealing the show and winning their match against Coast to Coast, and then mocking Hardy. I thought that was hilarious. This was when they were Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions, guys, because Ring of Honor is a taped show. So as you're probably looking at Ring of Honor stuff right now, the Hardys are the Tag Team Champions. You know, this is when they were champions before. So like I said, it's TV tapings, first of all. But they came out and steal the show. Low point, Hangman Paige came out to Cody Rhodes' promo, even though the high point was Cody Rhodes delivering the promo on Jay Lethal and basically called him out for a bull match. Could Cody Rhodes do any wrong, man, for real? I mean, I love that guy. And Martinez turned on BJ Whitmer, which was the biggest high point of the match, of the whole, match of the tag team match between them two in War Machine. And it was the highlight of the Ring of Honor show because Martinez turned on BJ after they got the upset victory in what was a brutal tag team match with War Machine, which I never thought would happen. Chairs, you name it, they did it. It was just a flat out fight. And how, I don't know, but BJ and Martinez managed to get the win. Martinez looked dominant and he even proved that when he chokeslammed BJ after the match. So yeah, good points, bad points, Ring of Honor points. It's Ring of Honor at the end of the day. There was only one low point, that was Hangman Page. It was what it was, guys. It was what it was. Cody Rhodes stealing the show in terms of his promo work. He is so good. The Young Bucks being too sweet, and BJ getting what he deserves, basically, getting his comeuppance at the end of the match, or the end of the show even, by getting chokeslammed by Martinez.
attention. I got something to say from another dimension.
And now it's time, guys, for, you heard the music, Friday Night Fight Club. That's right, ICW's Friday Night Fight Club, coming from Manchester this week. Great show. Very, very good show. I'll give you the highs and the lows. The high point was Kenny Williams elevating that Zero-G championship belt and defending it against Charlie Sterling and proving that he is a great Zero-G champion, and a great match, back and forth stuff, fast pace, and Charlie Sterling's agility is just insane. It really is. He was doing flips off the top rope, standing on the top rope, balance-wise. Agility is just insane. Low points, Sam Barber calling out Stevie Boy, who was suspended, and the saga between Christopher Saint and Liam Thompson. I think Christopher Saint is trying to turn Liam Thompson and make him into a nice guy. I think that's what I'm getting from these sagas, but it's just not working. You can see why as well, because every time Christopher has his back turned, Liam pulls up some dirty tricks, so it's just ridiculous. Whether it'll work or not, we'll have to wait and see. High points, Kaylee Ray puts Sam Barber in his place and retains her women's championship in what was a little quick match with April Davis. Also, a very shock going back to a tag match involving two mates pissing about, which featured Martin Kirby, and they were up against Polar Promotions, and Polar Promotions got beat. And that was a high point, because that shocked the hell out of me, plus because Polar Promotions is the greatest tag team in ICW's history, and they did the business for them, which was, mind-blowing. I wasn't expecting that. One. Another high point, low point was Zach Gibson beating Ravy Davey, even though he had a high point as the promo when it was basically Liverpool versus Manchester, and starts calling out and getting on the case in Charlie Sterling. But the band in the end with the crowd, the Liverpool versus Manchester thing, it was just great. You had the crowd going, Manchester, la la la, Manchester, la la la, and he was really pissed off about it, which was great. High points, Coffee and Gunn, great match. Back and forth, hard-hitting match. I knew this would be a hard-hitting match when I saw it on the listings. It was just great. Great stuff. Great match. It ended very strangely, though, because not in the fact that BT Gunn actually submitted. It was the way he submitted, because Coffee got BT up in a power driver, and then Coffee hooked the legs of BT, and then BT tapped out, which very unique. I've never seen anything like that before, in terms of submissions anyway. And another high point was the epic rematch between Wolfgang, who really came close, very, very close to becoming the ICW World Heavyweight Champion once again, but as we all knew, predictable-wise, it was going to be Trent Seven retaining, and he retained with a power driver through two chairs. Yeah, that sucked. And I think it had an effect on Wolfgang as well, because he held his neck. Yeah, and I don't care who you are, you get power driven through two chairs. That's a recipe for disaster itself, let me tell you. But anyway, guys, that is the end of the Ring of Honor and the ICW reviews, highs and lows rather. Hope you guys enjoyed them. I thought I'd put them together. That was a last minute thing. I thought I'd put them together, do the Ring of Honor first, boom, 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 get the intro in for ICW, and then do ICW. If you're interested in seeing Ring of Honor, or ICW for that matter, subscribe to the ICW On Demand service as well. More information, go to their website, and go to the Ring of Honor website to see Ring of Honor TV each and every week, or download it on the Fight app as well, because you get to see it for free on there as well, a couple of days early before it goes onto the actual website as well, which is beautiful for me. But I would say, guys, I'll be back in the next part with top 10 moments where WCW went too far. And believe me, it's a top 10. I could probably give you a top 30, or maybe more. But I'm giving you a top 10, and it's coming up right after this. Stay tuned.
Hey guys, this is Mike Larkin.
And this is Stevie Nicks.
To check out the S&M Show podcast and more great audios, check us out on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/MCLarkin92. And we are now on the Swerve Talk Network, Fridays, 9 p.m. Eastern, 3 a.m. UK time, along with the Max Wrestling Podcast, Offshoot Radio, Sunday Segway, and the Wrestling Matters Podcast. And also follow us on Twitter at SMShow1 and at SteveNicksSM. You won't be disappointed. Peace.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Wrestling Matters Podcast. And now it's time for the top 10 shocking moments that WCW went too far on, basically. And we'll get right into it with number 10, RoboFlop. Oh boy. Capital Combat back in 1990. So the Horsemen, who were at the time, I believe, Barry Windham, Arn Anderson, Ole Anderson, the manager, Ric Flair, and one Sid Vicious as well, a few of them, I think Rick was getting ready for his match later on in the evening. A few of them came out and jumped Sting and locked him up in a cage, which brought out RoboCop. RoboCop came out, WCW trying to be WWE and promote, get to that entertainment side of it and everything. It didn't work. RoboCop came out, grabbed out of the cages, broke the cages, if they could call them cages, and out came Sting. And that intimidated the Horsemen, because Horsemen were like, fuck that, and walked away. That was RoboCop, ladies and gentlemen. Capital Combat 1990 for WCW. 9. Go home, WCW, you're drunk. I don't know who came up with this idea. I'd love to meet the guy who did. But back in the day, about 1998 time, Scott Hall was going through some problems. We have our demons. Well, they've had their demons in the past, the alcohol issues and everything like that. Some bright spark in WCW's creative team thought it would be a good idea to have a gimmick made out of that and put it on Scott Hall. A gimmick where he comes out, holds a tub or some sort of like carton that you'd probably get if you went to a business meeting or something like that. The jugs of water that you get in the corner. You take one of the cartons and you fill it up with water. Came out basically to something like that. And that would be conceived as alcohol, even though if you look at it closely, it wasn't. It was probably water, from what I'm seeing anyway. I might be wrong. And then on an episode of Nitro one time, Bischoff and the old NWO crew came down, even Kevin Nash himself, and he wasn't even in the NWO Hollywood at the time. He was Wolfpack. Tried to calm him down and get him in. Tell him to get a grip and everything, And it got to the point where Scott Hall ended up puking all over Bischoff. Nothing creative about that whatsoever. Number 8 is Cut It Out. Now this is referring to not the clusterfuck match that was the rematch from 1990 with Hogan and the Warrior, the pay-per-view, Halloween Havoc. Went into overtime, too far. And what was considered one of the best matches in Halloween Havoc's history in terms of main event, Goldberg and DDP, it went on, but if you bought the pay-per-view, it cut off, because pay-per-views are supposed to go on, unless you're on the WWE Network, are supposed to go on 3 hours at the most. Pay-per-view contributors give you a 3-hour spot to do a pay-per-view. This went over. And halfway through the match, people lost the feed and were demanding their refund because they didn't get to see the main event. That wasn't until they had on Nitro the previous night. So what was considered the best match in Halloween Havoc's history in terms of main event, on the actual day, no one got to see it. The next one is about January of 1999. All's fair in the Monday Night War. The night Mick Foley won the championship. Mick Foley won the title from The Rock with a little help from Stone Cold. He became WWE champion, and WCW were winning the ratings at the time, and people were tuning into WCW Nitro and everything, until Tony Schiavone came up with this idea, probably through Bischoff, to give the pre-recorded Raw results away. I mentioned that Foley, who was Cactus Jack in WCW, would be the champion. He'd get the belt that night. And Tony Schiavone turned around and went, "Now put a lot of butts in the seat." Well, it did, because everybody tuned over to watch Foley win the title. However, they decided to tune back over to WCW as well. I believe this was the same night of the Decision of Doom, which is the next one, which was the finger poke of Doom. Hogan and Nash. I think this was the same night where Foley won the title, if I remember correctly. And all WCW fans and wrestling fans got to see in the main event was Hogan poking Kevin Nash like if he was on Facebook, and Nash falling down. Hogan covers him 1, 2, 3. Hogan's the champion again. And hence the rebirth of the NWO to the NWO Elite, which was a good idea at the time, because it was meant to be, Kevin Nash has even said this himself, it was meant to be a heel group, like a heel faction to counter the Goldberg babyface. It didn't work very well, and then on an episode of Thunder, Goldberg broke his hand by smashing it into a limousine. Good move, Bill. Next is Oklahoma. Now, around about 1999, poor OGR, the greatest announcer in the history of this business, bar none, went down with a symbol of Bell's palsy. WCW, Vince Russo, and I believe Ed Ferrara, but I think it was mainly Russo, came up with this bright idea to create a character, Oklahoma. And one night doing the Pinata match, the Pinata on the pole match, more on them later, Oklahoma showed up. Everybody thought it was GR. Oklahoma showed up at the announce table with Dr. Death Steve Williams. And Ed Ferrara, who played him, was mocking GR. Boy, oh boy, did he get some heat for that. Especially from one Jim Cornette as well. That got over like a fart in church. Don't bring your knife to a wrestling fight, which is the next one. This was going back to Super Brawl 2000. Big Al fought on the pay-per-view Tank Abbott. And apparently these two went way back. Whether that's a story, whether that's a, kayfabe thing, I don't know. Tank beat him, but after the match, he knocks him out, he's laid him out on the actual concrete floor in the alleyway, the rampway, if you will, the aisle, there you go, I knew it would come to me eventually, it shows you Tank sticking something towards the neck of Big Al. And WCW panicking, they went to a wide shot, panicking like hell. Turns out it was a knife. I think he was attempting to slit his throat on pay-per-view television. Thankfully, WCW saw this, and they acted really, really quickly, because the next day, Tank was released. Basically fired. The next one is probably the most craziest way to promote a movie. The star of the movie, Ready to Rumble, David Arquette, becoming WCW World Heavyweight Champion. Oh boy, oh boy. You can imagine how that got over. It was an episode of Thunder, I believe doing a 4-way match or a tag match. Arquette pinned Bischoff and became the champion. Arquette, to his credit, did not want anything to do with this. He didn't want to be the champion. He didn't want to even have anything to do with it. He just wanted to be a part of WCW in some capacity. He had no intention of being the WCW World Heavyweight Champion. But Shivani, mainly Russo, and them thought it would create some buzz. And in a way it did, but not positive. And he had one defense with that against Tank Abbott. But all the power to him, all the credit in the world to Mr. David Arquette, because he donated the profit that he got from that, the money, the paydays that he got from that. He donated them to the funds that help Brian Pillman, Owen Hart, and Darren Drozoff. So, GG. Fair play to you, sir. He didn't want the money, so he donated it to all of them. So, you can't fault him for that. Next one is Bash at the Beach. If you want a good perspective of this, guys, if you want a good perspective of this angle and what the hell went down here, watch Legends with JBL, Eric Bischoff. You get his side of it, and he tells it very goodly and, in more depth. The plan was for Hogan, well, originally it was Jerry to win the title, but Hogan played his creative control card and wanted to win the belt. Because Bischoff came up with an idea, he's even admitted this with the JBL, Bischoff came up with an idea that he wanted to have an angle where Hogan wins the belt, they get out of there, basically, lays down for him, gets out of there, and then goes away. For about 3 months, Hogan that is, and Bischoff. And then somebody wins the championship, maybe a Booker T at the time, I don't know. Could have been a Booker T, we don't know. And then Hogan comes back, and you've got the champion in the ring, and you've got Hogan carrying this belt, and he comes back and says, "You're not the champion, I'm the champion," and then, "No, I'm the champion," and then they clash to see who's the undisputed WCW champion. Things didn't go according to plan, because when Hogan and Bischoff were on the plane going back to wherever it is they were going, Vince Russo took it upon himself to go to the ring and publicly slate Bischoff, in a way, and Hogan, basically firing him on pay-per-view, and then booking a match between Jeff Jarrett and Booker T. Hogan sued. I don't know if he won, but he sued and was never allowed back in WCW again. And the final one, the centerpiece of Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara's bullshit. Too many polls. I'll give you a list. Judy Bagwell on the pole match, Viagra on the pole match, Pinata on the pole match, where you got Ed Ferrara going, Pinata. But the ultimate clusterfuck was somebody had the poles, 4 poles around the ring, pole match, and we had 4 boxes hanging from the poles with the one of them had the WCW World title in it, and the other 3 had mystery stuff in it. But there was the job to find the WCW Championship. And Jeff Jarrett had one which ended up with a blow-up dog. Booker T pulled one out which had Scott Holt's picture in it, which got over, there was a pop for that. And then Booker T finally found the one that had the championship. And as he grabbed hold of it, the box opened underneath. The box opened, the WCW title fell out to the arena floor. David Pins is picking it up and giving it back to Booker T. And Booker T is declared the winner and WCW champion to save any David Arquette BS. Horrible. That's all you could say about that, guys. Right, guys, that about wraps this part up. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you want to check that video out, if you want to check it all out, and if you want to see the video where I got this from, check out Sportster on YouTube. The Sportster on YouTube. 10 shocking WCW moments that went too far. So be sure to check that out as well. It's on YouTube. I'll share a link in the description below, whether you listen to this on YouTube or SoundCloud or whatever. So, yeah, go check it out, guys. I recommend it. Anyway, guys, that is about the end of this part. I'll be back in the final part with an outro. And a reminder, Ryan Howe coming to Wrestle Ireland. Stay tuned. Are you sick of professional wrestling? Do you want to speak your mind about professional wrestling? Well, if you like a wrestling podcast, why not tune in to the wrestling podcast where wrestling matters? The Wrestling Matters Podcast. Each and every week, I talk about the best in professional wrestling from WWE, TNA, ICW, Progress Wrestling, Ring of Honor, and the list goes on and on. Also, on the other occasions, I bring guests in as well to shoot the breeze about the one thing that I love, that we all love, professional wrestling. So join me each and every week for the Wrestling Matters Podcast on YouTube, AJW Wrestling Matters, the Wrestling Matters YouTube channel, SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/wrestling_matters_podcast, and any other podcasts that matters. Wrestling Matters, wrestling fans. Welcome back to the final part of the Wrestling Matters podcast. This is just a quick outro, guys. Hope you guys have enjoyed the podcast, the new format, anything to improve, guys. Please let me know at WMPodcast on Twitter or Facebook.com/WMPodcast, or drop a comment in the comment section below if you listen to this or seeing this on YouTube. Also, guys, speaking of YouTube, Wrestling Matters podcast on YouTube, Swerve Talk Network. I said it earlier on. I'm going to say it again. Ruthless Aggression, Max Wrestling, Sunday Segway, Wrestling's Worst, S&M Show podcast, and the list goes on and on. Check them out each and every week. Also on SoundCloud, download for free. Radio Big World, also look them up on SoundCloud. And quick reminder, guys, before I go, about March 26th in Liverpool, Wrestle Island, March 26th. Ryan Howe is there, better known to WWE Tough Enough fans from the Austin host, where he was known as Skid Marks by Bill DeMott. Yeah, it was what it was, guys. It was what it was. But apparently since then, he's appeared in Gut Check, and he's a 2-time OVW champion. So if you want to see him in person, apparently he's now a rocker gimmick. He's got a rocker gimmick, guys. If you want to see him in person, get yourself over to Birkenhead for more information on this and all stuff Wrestle Island, as well as the Mystery Island as well. Facebook.com/Wrestle Island. Facebook.com/Back to the Island. 56 to 58 Oxton Road in Birkenhead. Get yourself over there if you're in the area. Go and check them out, guys. Go and check out the shop and enjoy yourself and enjoy what is in there, and find out who's coming there to get some autographs. And who knows, if you're in the area, get yourself down there, get some autographs. But that about wraps this up for the podcast, guys. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. This has been Wrestling Matters Podcast episode 155. Hope you guys have enjoyed it, and until episode 156, which will be next week, I am Anthony Walker, bringing you a new format, a new direction, if you could say that, for the Wrestling Matters podcast as well, with a new theme song as well. Hope you guys have enjoyed all that. This has been episode 155. Till next time, guys, I'm Anthony Walker, Wrestling Matters, and I'll see you soon. Episode 156 next week. Peace out, guys.